Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another standard deck tech, and today we're going to be talking about the newest version of Gruul Dinosaurs in standard. I am very excited to share this very spicy list with you. As always, at the end of the video, let me know in the comment section below, is there a specific card that I should have put in this deck that I did not, or do you have suggestions for upcoming videos? Just let me know in the comment section. So, okay. Gruul Dinosaurs. I've always been a huge fan of dinosaurs in general, regardless of format. I obviously play them a lot in Pioneer for those who are not familiar with the channel, and I also like playing them in Standard. And there's a few new cards that came into Standard from Foundations that made dinosaurs much, much better. The ironic part about it is they're all new to Standard, but they're all reprints. They're not actually new cards, they're just new to the format. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. The cards I'm referring to is Surrak the Huntcaller, Ghalta Primal Hunger, and Llanowar Elves. So, Surrak originally printed in Dragons of Tarkir, which, I mean, it's like about 10 years ago now, which definitely doesn't feel like it. But Surrak the Huntcaller, fantastic card. As long as you have, Formidable is the actual name of it. Or is it? It's a Ferocious. I'm forgetting all of a sudden. Formidable. That's what it is. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn, which is obviously fantastic in this deck, being able to give any of our big creatures that we play pretty much after Surrak haste. And you want to know what? Depending on, as long as our hand looks pretty decent, it gives itself haste, which is really, really good in a deck like Dinosaurs. We're also playing Ghalta Primal Hunger. 3 copies of it. Again, not a new card, but new to Magic Foundation, so it's back in Standard, which is really, really good with all the dinosaurs that existed before. It costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. So we're trying to play this for 2 green mana, 12/12 Trampler, hopefully with a little bit of haste from Surrak the Huntcaller, and then Llanowar Elves. It's been a card, you know, in and out of Standard for a long time. It's been a while since it's been in Standard, but it is back. And the biggest thing is why I think this deck might be decent is we have 8 elves in this deck. Along, obviously we have Llanowar Elves, we have Ixali's Lorekeeper, which is very unique to this deck. Obviously, the only other 1-mana dork that's in Standard is Ixali's Lorekeeper. So Dinosaurs has 8 elves, which I think gives it a huge leg up on the other, like, Gruul aggro decks. So we're playing 8 elves. What else are we playing in this deck? Belligerent Yearling is also really, really good. Whenever another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Belligerent Yearling's base power become equal to that creature's power until end of turn. And obviously we have cards like Ghalta, which means we could potentially have a 12/2 with Trample, which is pretty sweet. But I really do like the Belligerent Yearling, especially with the other cards that are in this deck. The other card I want to talk about on this slide, Scytheclaw Raptor. Fantastic card in the metagame right now against all the other mid-range and control decks. 4/3 for 3, which is pretty good stats. Whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, Scytheclaw Raptor deals 4 damage to them, which is just super strong, makes our control and mid-range players have to play on their own turn unless they want to take some extra damage. So, huge fan of Scytheclaw Raptor in this deck. Next slide, we have a whole bunch of cards that were from, you know, Lost Caverns of Ixalan and before. For Pugnacious Hammerskull, it's a 6/6 for 3. Sure, if it attacks while you don't control another dinosaur, it gets a stun counter on it, which can happen. It's pretty rare for the most part, but it's a 6/6 for 3. Really good with the Belligerent Yearling. That's why we're playing it. We're also playing Rampaging Raptor, 4 copies of it. A red questing beast essentially, has a nice pump ability, and then it's able to deal some extra damage to some planeswalkers, which is fantastic. And then we're also playing 2 copies of Bonehorde Dracosaur. I was playing Palani's Hatcher in the slot originally, but I decided to pivot to Bonehorde Dracosaur as I like how it's really, really grindy. It's got the flying there. And essentially, if we untap with this, we are so far ahead, and we're probably going to end up winning the game just because Bonehorde Dracosaur is that good. So, huge fan of that. And then the last cards we have to talk about is a little bit of a removal that we're playing in this deck. For Triumphant Chomp, it's really good being able to potentially do way more than 2 damage, which is awesome, so we can take out some really, really big threats. And then Burst Lightning, another new card from Foundations. I wanted another cheap removal spell at instant speed. I originally was playing like Torch the Tower, but I decided to pivot to Burst Lightning just because being able to fling it at our opponent's face potentially is really nice. We're not going to be obviously kicking it very often, but when we do, it's going to feel really, really good, and we are playing cards like Llanowar Elves, so it's not unreasonable for us to get to 5 mana to actually kick this card and, you know, maybe take out a bigger creature or be able to take out our opponent. So, definitely a huge fan of Burst Lightning in this deck. So that's the entire main board. Let's go and hop on the lands real quick, which our land base is really simple. We're playing 4 Copperline Gorge, 4 Carplusian Forest, and 4 Thornspire Verge as our main dual lands in the deck. We are also playing 2 Restless Ridgeline and 3 Cavern of Souls. I really do like the Restless Ridgeline. Obviously, it being a dinosaur is extremely helpful. And then rounding out our lands, we are playing 4 forests and 2 mountains. And that's it. It's standard. It's a pretty simple mana base. It's not like Pioneer where we're playing a whole bunch of 1 or 2 ofs or anything like that. And then as our spicy basic land of the day, these are actually the lands that I personally play in my dinosaur list. I've always been a huge fan of these unsanctioned full art lands. They are sweet in person. The foil also looks pretty good too. So huge fan of these, and these are the ones that I personally like to play in my dinosaur deck. So don't go anywhere yet though. We'll still have to talk about our sideboard as well as some budget options for the deck. So normally with sideboarding, for those who follow the channel, I typically like to go with just a general idea, but not today. Today I want to talk about specifically what I'm playing in the sideboard and why, and a little bit of a disclaimer before I really hop into it here. If you do end up wanting to change the sideboard and not have it match this, depending on what your metagame looks like or something you're comfortable with, feel free to do so. This is just based on my local metagame and just what I think is potentially the best. There's a whole bunch of cards that are very good that you could play in this sideboard, so don't feel afraid to change it from what, you know, this looks like. So, okay, anyways, Ghost Vacuum. There's actually a decent amount of Reanimator right now in the metagame, just with like Zombify and Rite of the Moth. So I'm playing Ghost Vacuum as a way to hurt those decks a little bit, especially there's other Ghost Vacuum decks. So, you know, you bring in the Ghost Vacuums, you can activate the ability there, make a whole bunch of crazy creatures for 6 mana. It's pretty good, so that's why I'm playing a few copies of that in the sideboard. I'm also playing 3 copies of Pick Your Poison. There's a lot of Atraxas and Valgavoths going around. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Always forget the name of that card. But there's a lot of good flyers to take out with Pick Your Poison, but there's also a lot of good enchantments going around, so, you know, you're able to take some out there. Torch the Tower. I wanted a few more cheap interaction spells. Torch the Tower is really good just because it does exile, so it's very relevant against cards like Heartfire Hero. 4 Tyvar stands. I'm bringing these in for mid-range and control. It's a really good protection spell that also gives indestructible, which is really cool. So that's why I'm playing Tyvar stand. I've always been a big fan of this. It's mostly just because it's a 1-mana hexproof indestructible spell. Some people like to play Snakeskin Veil, which is a solid card, but in this type of deck, I've always liked Tyvar stand. 2 Slag Storms, brand new card from Foundations. Being able to deal 3 damage to each creature or each player is really cool. I just wanted a mass board wipe spell, and I decided to play this over Brotherhood's End just because of the option to be able to deal 3 damage, which can mean the difference between having lethal and not having lethal damage. And then rounding out the sideboard, 2 Tranquil Frillback. The card is just really good in general, especially in a dinosaur deck. We're already playing dinosaurs, so it fits the theme of it overall. Just a huge fan of Tranquil Frillback in the sideboard. So, last thing we have to talk about is the budget options for this deck, which is really simple. Swap out the Bonehorde Dracosaur. We're only playing 2 copies, so it's nothing too crazy. Just go ahead and cut 2 of those and play some Palani's Hatchers. Palani's Hatcher is still a really good card. It's just the fact that I thought Bonehorde Dracosaur is a little bit better in the current metagame, but still, just go ahead and play that over budget, over Bonehorde Dracosaur. And then, obviously, budget dual lands. You can go ahead and cut, like, the Thornspire Verge and the Cavern of Souls. There's a lot of good budget dual lands right now in the metagame, like there's Secluded Courtyard, which just came back with Foundations. So there's definitely a lot of good options you could do. Obviously, you could just go up to like 4 Restless Ridgeline, go up to Secluded Courtyard, that kind of thing. You could quite easily have a very good mana base that's still very budget. But the current list, as it's constructed right now, is only $211 US, which is pretty cheap for a standard deck. The biggest thing I want to mention with this is most of the cost of the deck is just in the dual lanes itself. So obviously I was able to get the budget list down to $60 US. The only thing I trimmed was the mana base. And then I changed the Bonehorde Dracosaur, and that's it. The core of the deck is extremely cheap. I even kept in like the $5 a piece Ghost Vacuums and such. All I did was change the lands in the Bonehorde Dracosaur. So most of the deck is really cheap. You can spend like $50 and $60 and have the entire deck for the most part. You just would need to get the Cavern of Souls if you really wanted to take this deck up to the next level, which Cavern of Souls isn't 100% necessary, but there is a decent amount of control going around, and when you play against control, you're going to want the Cavern of Souls. It can be the difference between winning the game and not winning the game with Cavern of Souls. So overall, I'm really excited for Dinosaurs in Foundations. I played it a while ago when Lost Caverns of Ixalan was relatively new, and honestly, the deck was really fun, and Ghalta Primal Hunger, along with Land of Wolves and Surrak, is really huge for this deck. A lot of good additions. Let me know in the comment section below if you already play Dinosaurs in Standard, or if you are just excited for Surrak or Ghalta in other decks just in general. And again, before I hop into the outro here, I do play a lot of Dinosaurs in Pioneer. I'll have a little, what is it? You can click on it at the end of the video here, and then if you want to check out my most recent Pioneer Dinosaurs list, you can definitely do that. So that takes us to the end of the video here. Thanks so much for watching. The deck lists are in the description below if you'd like to check them out for yourself. Huge shout out to our channel members, Ralph, Matt, Arcadius, Ray, Gary, Starwanoki, and Night Red 3. If you're interested in being a channel member, it's only $1 US a month. You get access to the exclusive Commander Crane Discord, as well as other features here on the channel. And we are also on our way to 1,000 subs, so if you are not subscribed, it is much appreciated. We're going to be doing a huge giveaway once we hit 1,000 subs, so I would definitely consider subscribing to the channel. So, I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one.